Hi, I'm back. Sorry I haven't been around. I've been kind of off the grid through no fault of my own for about a month. I had some really serious issues with my internet connection, and then I got injured and thought that I would be okay staying at home for a week and resting and it would go away, but it didn't. So I wound up with a hospital visit. So now I'm here, I'm back. I hopefully have a decent internet connection, and I'm in very little pain currently and seem to be very much on the mend from my injury. So I'm going to try to do something a little bit different than I usually do, and that is I'm going to combine two cases into one video. The reason for my doing that is I started researching and looking into a case before I went off the grid, and now I can't find anything about it. Fortunately, I took some notes, but I don't have any pictures of the missing young man. But I do have pictures of the building where he was last before he went missing, and some sketchy but fairly thorough information about him. He may have been found, and that's why he's not available to be searched anymore. But he'd been missing for, about a year and a half when I started researching him in June. So I don't know. I'm going to tell you about him, and God bless him and his family if he's been found, and if not, maybe he sounds familiar. Maybe you saw him back in 2024. And the second case I'm going to cover is the case of a John Doe. So he's not physically missing, but he's missing his name. And I am fascinated by the way the Doe network works to try to identify folks that are found. And this is a kind of a sad case, and there's a lot, even though the case is like 50 years old, little bit more than 50 years old, there's a lot of information here on the Doe network about him. So I'm going to cover both cases in one video, do the best I can, hopefully keep them straight for you. So let's start, shall we? First case I want to cover is the case of a young man named Justin Boggs, Boggs. Now, he's missing from Shreveport, Louisiana. That's something both of these cases have in common. They're both from Louisiana, which is just a coincidence. He went missing on February 28th, 2024, when he was 31 years old. Now, he is only about 7 years old developmentally. Due possibly from a defect from birth, which I'll talk about in a minute. But he was a patient at a place called Brentwood Hospital, which is on West Highland Street in Shreveport. Now, that's a mental health facility. It takes patients anywhere from 4 years old on through way into adulthood and senior citizens. They treat a lot. It's a big place, and they treat a lot of different kinds of things. They treat developmental, easy for me to say, disabilities. They treat folks who are on the autism spectrum. They treat drug and alcohol addiction, all kinds of mental and emotional health disorders. They have both inpatient and outpatient treatment modems. or modalities, I should say. Back to the internet, modems. Modalities, you can be admitted there for a short-term stay or long-term stay, or attend one of their outpatient programs. They have therapeutic yoga. They have dietary help in case that there are issues with food that exacerbate your condition, and sometimes there are food sensitivities and allergies which can exacerbate a person's mental health issues or developmental health issues. They just have all kinds of programs and all kinds of things. They are the largest mental health organization in Louisiana, and I mean, I've got a couple of pictures of Brentwood. It's a big place. Now, they have a great website, and they seem to be very positive and very concerned and very adamant about helping this population of folks. But I have also seen on TikTok and Reddit and various reviews where patients and family members of patients say that the inpatients don't get very good care there because they're so understaffed and overwhelmed by the amount of people who need their help, and just don't have the staff to accommodate all the people who come in and need services. So they have on their website, on the Brentwood Hospital website, which I believe is brentwoodbehavioralcare.com or maybe .org. But if you typed in Brentwood Hospital in Shreveport, Louisiana, you would find their website. It's a very nice website, and they're advertising for help, and apparently they could really use the help. So let's go back for a second to the case here of Justin Boggs. Again, he went missing from Brentwood Hospital in Shreveport, Louisiana on February 28, 2024. And when I say he went missing from the hospital, I don't mean that he literally went missing from inside the hospital or he walked out without being noticed. What happened was he was on a short-term inpatient stay at the hospital at the end of February of 2024, and on the 28th of February at about 2 p.m. he was discharged. He walked out, as one does when one is discharged, of his own free will and with permission of the medical staff there. And then he hasn't been seen since he left the hospital. But he was discharged around 2 p.m. on that day. I have mentioned that he, at the time of his disappearance last year, I don't have a date of birth for him, so he's probably 32 now, but he was 31 when he disappeared. He's 7 years old developmentally. He is a white male, 5 foot 3 inches tall, and 80 pounds. So he is not a huge man by any stretch of the imagination. He looks to be about 12 years old, even though he's 31, and he has a goatee. So if you know very many 12-year-olds with goatees, then he may be easier to spot than one would imagine. He almost always wears a blue do-rag on his head to cover up a deformity in his skull from birth. Now, I don't know if that has anything to do with his developmental disability or not, but he covers his skull up with a blue do-rag. If you have any information, or you think you might have seen Mr. Boggs, he's a 31-year-old adult, but again, he's only 7 years old developmentally, and physically, he's about the size of a 12-year-old. with a goatee. So if you know anything about him, or even think you do, if there's anything you can provide, if you know that he's been found successfully alive and well, and that's why I can't find anything more on him, comment in the comments below. Let me know if you know anything about this case, because I simply can't find anything in all my usual looking places about it currently. And I just found one short, couple paragraphs about him back when I was looking him up at the end of June of this year. And I will also leave the contact information for the Caddo Police Department and the Shreveport Police Department. If you have a tip for them regarding this gentleman, then you can give them a call. I don't have a case number for you or a detective name or anything. That's all I have about him. I don't have a picture. I don't have a missing poster. I don't have anything about poor Justin Boggs. But I'm going to put his name out there and keep hoping that either he's turned up in the last year and a half, or there's something more when I do an update that I can put out about him. Okay, the second case, I've been more successful as far as a picture of the young man, and several things about him. This case really touched my heart. I'm always really interested in how John Does and Jane Does can be identified. So I do have a picture of this young man as he looked when he passed, and he was found deceased on February 14th, which is, of course, Valentine's Day, in 1975. Now, again, this is in Louisiana. I don't speak French very well. From time to time I can, but I'm not going to. I want to apologize ahead of time for my pronunciation. He was located in Bellechasse, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana. They estimated that his death had been pretty recent, pretty close to February 14th, 1975, because he had a recognizable face and he was not in a deep state of decomposure. And this cause of death was unaliving himself by hanging. His estimated age is 16 to 18 years old. He's a white male, 5'10" to 6 foot tall, 150 to 160 pounds, with short brown hair, brown eyes, and slightly protruding front teeth. Now, the identifiers, which are dental records, fingerprints, and DNA, none of those are available. He was found wearing a maroon and yellow long-sleeved Puritan knit shirt, blue arrow pants with a brown belt, one gray and one dark blue sock, and no shoes. It's unknown whether he had any additional personal items or jewelry. Now, I'm going to talk to you about the circumstances of his discovery, which is what really touched me. And I've got some maps to show you what areas being referred to here. So a couple driving through the woods on a farm road between Highway 23 and the Mississippi River found the body of the decedent hanging from a limb of a persimmon tree, a bed sheet tied around his neck. Against the tree was a jar full of notepaper. Inside was an unaliving note addressed to his parents. And the note reads as follows: Mom and Dad, you have provided me excellent advantages and privileges and experiences. I am extremely grateful for all of your sacrifices, time, and support. I am now repaying you with an arrogant act. In this light, I do see it as criminal. I can only hope that you see that it was me who caused it. I never did develop into a real person, and I cannot tolerate the false and empty existence I have created. It is best if I cease to live, quietly, rather than risk that later I will break and shatter by violence or linger years under care. I implore you to seek a psychiatrist in order that you might understand my death and my life. Ask thoroughly about what I was, and you will see that it is not tragic that I am gone, but more natural than if I had continued. I was born with a definite, pervasive melancholy. What frustrated me most in the last year was that I had built no ties to family or friends. There was nothing of lasting worth and value. I led a detached existence, and I was a parody of a person, literally and figuratively. I didn't tell jokes. I was a joke. I am a bomb of frustration and should never marry or have children. It is safest to defuse the bomb harmlessly now. I do not want to bother with being a quote-unquote reformed and cured person limping through life. I am this self-centered. I am no longer interested in the world and know that it is not interested in me. When you stop growing, you are dead. I stopped growing long ago. The decedent cited the writing of Emile Durkheim, a philosopher and psychologist, and he also added this aside to authorities. So at the end of the note to his parents, he added something on the bottom here to the authorities, to the police and the folks who were going to take care of him after he was found. You are bound to preserve domestic peace and order. If you pursue who I was and spend hundreds of dollars, you will accomplish little. There are no legal consequences of my death or any kind of entanglements. All that can happen is that you will shatter the domestic peace and order of 2 innocent lives. Now here I can only think he must have been referring to his parents when he talks about 2 innocent lives. Do not deprive them of the hope that their quote-unquote missing son will return. Let me be. Let it be as if I wasn't ever here. Simply cremate me as John Doe. There are no surviving reports or records from either the Plaquemines Parish Sheriff's Office or Coroner's Office. At the time of the discovery, the decedent's fingerprints had been circulated to police across the country, so he had fingerprints taken at the time. Then there's a list of the investigating agencies: the LSU Faces Laboratory, the Plaquemines Parish Sheriff's Office, and the nameless case number. I am curious, which I don't know. Oh, the LSU Faces agency also has a case number. I'll put all that in the description box below, along with Justin Boggs, Caddo PD and Shreveport PD information. I'm curious about this young man. I mean, he wrote that whole long note and never signed his name. Was he cremated? If not, is there, and I know how much paperwork and hassle and money it costs to disinter someone, to get DNA and then to reinter them. And his parents could be deceased by now. And if he was an only child, which kind of sounds like maybe he was, from little hints in his note, maybe there's no one left to notify. But somewhere, someone must be you know, related to him. And somewhere, in someone's family folklore, there must be people wondering what happened to him. I have to remember that he went missing in 1975, and there wasn't any, you know, social media, no laptops or cell phones or smartwatches or, you know, I don't know. Was he even from Shreveport? Was he even from Louisiana? Maybe he left whatever state he came from in order to, you know, to do this to himself and then be found far away from his home and his roots. I don't know, I just think this is frustrating for me, and it's sad for me, and I wonder, you know, he was so young, and he couldn't have been missing long because they found him fairly recently after his death, and he was obviously very smart and very articulate, and just, I don't know, just sad. And then I'm sad about Justin Boggs, the previous case, the beginning, because where is he? And why isn't there anything out there anywhere about him anymore? I was lucky I took notes on that day in June that I found his info, because it's just I've been searching for hours all evening and not found anything. So anyway, I'm going to leave it here, you know, with the usual request that if you know anything about this young man, Justin Boggs, if you think you saw him a year and a half ago outside of Brentwood or near Brentwood Hospital in Shreveport, you know, call in a tip, call in what you know, if you've seen him lately somewhere, even better. Or if you're a friend or a relative and you know that he's been found, that would be good to know too. Or if I had a picture of him or anything. And then, of course, this very, very sad and kind of poetic in a way. He speaks as a poet and in a very intelligent and thoughtful person. And you know, I'm sorry. If he was, well, he'd be my age. If he was 18 years old in February of 1975 when he was found deceased, I was 17, but I turned 18 in 1975, so he'd be my age. Because it said he was 16 to 18 years old, so he'd be my age. And I think that's sad. Maybe that's part of what touched me too, was the fact that, I don't know, that he and I would be about the same age. So anyway, thank you for spending this time with me. Thanks for listening to 2 cases instead of 1, and for helping out. If you see something, say something. If you know something, get a tip into the appropriate places. And if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel. Leave me a thumbs up. Leave me a comment, but please be kind. You don't have to agree with me, but please be, you know, nice. And I read them. And all of the descriptive things, all the people you can call to turn in your tips, be down in the description box below the video. and I hope you have a wonderful, it's quite late here in the night, so I'm going to wish you a wonderful tomorrow, and I will be back in the next couple of days with some more videos and try to get things moving in the right direction again. Thanks for your patience, and as always, I'll see you soon. Bye.